Hey, assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to a Friday night show with my friend Zain Arashad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Zain. Zain is one of the really, I should say, people that I met in the last 5 years, and I was lucky to work on a few things together in serving the community. And when I was really starting with this question is why our Muslim community not engaged enough in broader communities? I think Zain was, I should say, probably an exception to this because he did quite a few things, and I want to really highlight his feedback about our community, Muslim community, about the work he did helping other people. And also we want to, through this conversation, we want to touch on the his input on what's going on in Calgary, especially when it comes to all the other community services that we're facing these days. So assalamu alaikum Arshad Maratani, and welcome on this show. Me and you, we talked a few times, and alhamdulillah we managed to do it today. So assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Never really had an introduction like that before. So
well, sorry,
but
go ahead.
no, I definitely we met through the whole Syrian refugee when that started, and the kind of calls to Facebook kind of came up, and everybody was happy about it. I was probably one of the skeptical persons first, because I was like, well, you guys are all collecting stuff, where are you going to distribute it to? And then you're like, well, we have a plan. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. That's refreshing. So I am just gonna be like I said originally, to me, I wanted to share a little bit about basically some organizations that I've been involved with, perhaps I have the privilege to be part of, and kind of help build or be a small part of it along the way, and also perhaps highlight some of the really good initiatives going on locally in Calgary right now. Okay. And again, with that being said, I'm not the spokesperson.
So I just want to make sure we're clear on this. Sure. I know you. I mean, talking to you, you see it, and you see the full side of the cup, and maybe I see the other side. So I'd like to hear from your side first, because honestly, I've done a lot of this thing. So I'm sorry if I interrupt you, but I just want to make sure, because I'm noticing a pattern. Like everybody I'm talking to, is they always give me this nicey, rosy, everything is such wonderful things, but really it's not. So I'm just gonna warn you, okay? So go ahead, please.
No. So I think Muslim organizations, or any organization, just in general, right? This year has been a tough one in general for everyone, right? And especially volunteer organizations. I'll give you ours, for example, right? So I'm part of Enjoying Good. We do food hampers. This year, we've probably done, I would say, half as many as we did in the past few years.
Right.
Big challenge that came up in spring was, well, how do you kind of get people together with restrictions? How do you get people together when you can't be together, right?
Right.
And then you run into all these different issues of trying to manage it. So then it was like, okay, if we get gloves for everyone, if we have sanitizer, if we get masks for people, they can space out, we can do it. Islamic Relief, MCC, a couple other organizations, they were the first ones that I came across that were doing the hampers when they made those hygiene kits for families and for individuals. And that was the first I got involved with it locally in this since the pandemic started. And that gave an idea, okay, this can be done, and we can probably replicate this over the hampers.
Okay.
And that was one of the first ones that we did this year, and then did another one over the summer around Ramadan and Eid time. And then since then, it's been at a pause, right? I think we did one back in September. Go ahead.
No, I'm just sorry. Go ahead.
No. So overall, it's been definitely challenging. But when it comes to organizations, they are going through. Some of them have got a lot of funding recently, right? So you'll see a lot of people on Facebook right now. They'll be like, "Okay, we received funding from organization X, Y, Z, and we are doing food hampers." So some organizations that were never doing food hampers before, they might be doing it now, which is fantastic, right? So they're filling in the void, perhaps, that we might be leaving because we're not doing hampers, or perhaps some other organization might not be doing as much, and they're able to fill that void. So that's fantastic. With that being said, at the same time, some of those grants, perhaps if it went to bigger organizations, they might be able to translate into more money, or more, not money necessarily, but more aid towards the community, right? Because it's like buying power. If you were to give me $100, I can buy a lot more than you can with $100.
Right.
Right. Just a simple economics and buying power.
So this charity stuff that you do, the Enjoying Good, which is really, definitely, I'm witness of quite a few campaigns in 2016 and 17, and maybe 18 as well. I'm not really sure. Like, you delivered a lot of stuff for a lot of people, and I'm sure you have a lot of volunteers also who helped you. So thanks to you and to all the volunteers.
Perhaps some other organization might not be doing. Sorry, it was just looping over. Yes.
Oh, that's okay. So why don't we start? And I want to get into the nitty gritty of this. Why don't we start? How did you get involved in this type of community work?
So kind of goes back to school, and I would say the more people you talk to, perhaps around my age, they probably got involved around school time. And what happened from there is either they've completely left or they've gone full-fledged.
Right.
Or perhaps some might be hybrid still. That's where I am, right in the middle.
Right.
That I balance it, but then I let go, then I come back into it, then I let go. So originally I got involved with it at SAIT days, just through the MSA, right? It's a great set of guys. We're still in touch. Alhamdulillah, there's 7-8 of us that are keeping in touch, and it's been great. So that was my first kind of like in the Muslim community, I would say, getting involved. And from there, it went into Al Maghrib Institute.
So this is all here in Calgary, right?
Yeah, so this is all time in Calgary. So this is dating back to 2008,
Okay.
2009. Al Maghrib Institute was launched. I got involved with them a little bit. I got introduced to a lot of people through the MSA, and it was just a natural thing, right? University of Calgary people, MSA guys were involved with Al Maghrib, so you got involved, and you do courses. You're like, you want to volunteer? Sure, why not? So, and it's just a natural thing to do when you're in school. You're part of a lot of clubs, you're part of a lot of organizations, and just affiliations from there, kind of on. So great for networking as well. Like right now, these days, all you hear about is networking.
Right.
That was networking before networking was networking.
Right.
So from there, actually. Enjoying Good, how that got where it is at today. It's a funny story. We got a flyer when we were part of MSA SAIT, and it said, if you live on campus, so they were targeting people, students that used to live on campus, and to offer them home cooked food.
Okay.
So students that live on campus, they're going to go buy junk food. They're going to buy a lot of takeout at the end of the day. Just a general statement. I don't want to trigger people by, someone is like, I cook myself. That's totally fine if you do, right? This is just a general statement, and I could be wrong. So anyways,
right.
The flyer said that, that's my.
So you're not old, but not that old. So you're too young to me anyway. So go ahead, please. Sorry.
So my cynosure was this project where they were targeting students that were on campus.
Right.
Okay? And for those students, they were going to cook home cooked meals. I lived at home with my parents. I did even after I finished school. And at that time, it was something like, we're like, okay, let's look into this a bit more. Because there was a lot of people, some of the people in MSA that lived on campus, right?
Right.
So we took the flyer, we talked, and we actually asked them, can you get us cooked food for Juma? We used to have classes, prayers.
Mm-hmm.
And we sell halal food on, after Juma to the people that come to attend Juma. That's where it started. And they're like, sure, we can try something out. And so there's a big operation involved, which started off as single mothers. They were involved. So they used to get fresh food delivered to them so they can cook. They would cook it. Somebody will come in the morning on every Friday, pick it up, drop it off at SAIT in like giant cartons and, prepackaged food.
Right.
We will take it, we'll sell it after Juma. All the money raised, we'll give it back to the organization, and they will give it back to single mothers.
Right.
And from there, we were able to raise, if I remember correctly, still, I think between $500 to $700 per family in a semester. It wasn't much,
Right.
but it was something that we started off.
I
Good
see.
old dinosaur days, yes. So, that's where it started off. From there, it evolved into orphan sponsorship program that was already working as a club, and SMSG was born, which was Single Mother Support Group, and that was there to totally cater to single mothers that are in Calgary.
Was that under the banner of, let's say, Muslim community or Muslim youth or Muslim organization, or just a bunch of good guys?
It was actually girls. She from I don't know the hierarchy now, what it was at that time, but the person that I met was a sister named Asma Alam, and she, I believe, is in Ottawa now.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was the kind of where SMSG was born. We also, the same core group that kind of worked there was also involved with ICNA Food Bank prior to that. And kind of from there, over the years, it evolved into Enjoying Good.
And this ICNA Food, was it here in Calgary or also?
Yeah, ICNA Food Bank, the old location was right. I don't know if you know, there's a store called Shiraz Bakery, I think.
I'm not familiar with it.
By Prairie Winds, just think of it that.
Oh yeah, okay.
Old location of ICNA. So we kind of did it there, and from there we actually were also the team that helped start We Care.
Really? Right.
So we started We Care originally back, I don't know when it was, 2012 I would say, or 2011, back then, and then from
was
there.
this Dr. Adnan Mansour?
At that time, no. I remember at that time only working with Tahir Alvi.
Oh, Tahir Alvi, yeah.
Tahir Alvi, and I believe after there was another gentleman who used to run it, yeah, he used to run it. But we got involved with it, I believe, with Tahir Alvi.
Oh, and this is was like in the Northwest, as we call it, Northwest Masala, or that was just a standalone organization called We Care at that time?
I don't remember, to be honest, but if I have to guess, I'm gonna say We Care was under MCC. I'm pretty confident, because I remember the whole thing was back in ICNA time that we weren't able to reach a lot because ICNA didn't have a local presence, like they didn't have musallas and stuff at the end of the day, right? MCC had all the Islamic centers. A lot of times when you have, so the issue as an organization, as a charity running in Calgary, and anyone watching this, right? If you're running a charity, you run into the same issues as anybody else when it comes to that. We want to cater to the local community, and you want local donations to go to local community, right? And you can't do that if the local zakat and all that stuff goes to the masajid, and then they disperse of it as they want to. And CRA regulations and all that, like a charity cannot give it to a non-charity. We were a not-for-profit, so totally understandable. But from what I recall, again, this is a long time ago, the main vision behind it was that the local zakat goes to local projects. Yeah. A local project to cater to local needs. So that was the vision from what I recall.
Oh, I see. And so that was, so then how long you worked, or you were part of that We Care at that time?
We Care, there were some politics and stuff that kind of came in. Long story short, we basically got pushed out. Exactly what happened in the background, we don't know, because we were not working there. The people that were actually working there, they probably know the whole history a lot more than I do. But at the end of the day, we realized there's a lot of community politics happening, as you already know. And it was better to be able to do something that is sustainable. So the issue was, if somebody tells you, okay, we'll do hampers 4 times a year, right? So I'm a person that likes structure. I'm a person that likes to be able to plan, as any organization would like to, right? You don't want to be like, okay, we'll let you know a week before, or we'll let you know 2 weeks before. I want to know for the year so we can plan ahead. We can go get a contract perhaps for groceries. We can get a better discount at groceries. That's what we do today.
Yeah.
We go to, I'll get into that later, but right now we go to one body and we're able to tell them, we're going to come to you for everything for the entire year. It'll be approximately X amount of dollars. Give us the best you can.
Right.
What that allows us to do is we go in the morning, we pick up our food in a truck, in a U-Haul, we load it in, off we go, make hampers, distribute them all within the span of 5 hours. Right. So it is a lot more fluid, a lot more efficient now than it was before, all because we can actually plan. So the reason we ended up forming Enjoying Good back then was that, okay, we cannot be doing haphazard and ad hoc type food hampers. If these families are actually depending on it, let's make it sustainable plan. Okay. How can we be sustainable? So then the whole thing was, okay, well, we cannot be sustainable if we're tied by the hip to another organization. We have to be standalone. We can plan it yourself. You have full control over it. That's where Enjoying Good was for.
Oh, I see. So, and I don't want to put you on the spot in any way when you think about the community politics, because I mean we all know what is. I mean, we're not like really a stranger to the what's going on. Plus, we don't want to really stir the pot and cause trouble for ourselves or for other people. But do you think these community politics, it really affect you or your team in the way that how you used to work? And if you don't mind, like, if you want to share with us some of these obstacles that you're talking about in terms of community politics, I'd like to know more about that, because this is how I see it. For me, Zain, you are a young man, a lot of ambitions, a lot of drive. You're very good in your business, but also you have a good heart. You do volunteers. You leave your kids and your wife and your work and your customers and your leisure time, and you go and do volunteer for our community. And I don't think we have a lot of those people who really do. Yes, we have people, but not a lot, especially from the younger generation like yourself. So for those who still telling you you're old, you're not that old. So it's very important. It's very important not to lose anybody because of the community politics. And I've seen this over and over and over and over.
I'll be a liar if I say people don't get turned off by it and kind of walk away. For sure they do. With that being said, it's a natural progression as well. So think of it this way. If everybody that volunteered back in university time kept on volunteering till they were 40 or 50, you will have a lot of volunteers.
Right.
It's always like a bell curve, right? Like you have volunteers right in the middle, but as the people you have families, you have commitments, and maybe community politics is one of it, right? But overall, a lot of people drop off as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? And that's a natural progression. So I'll give you, not to put other organizations, I'll give you our example, right? In our organization, so we have a lot of people, that are involved in our organization. But over the years, there's been an influx of people that come in, and then over the years, they get busy. They might not have enough time, and then they're like, okay, we're out. Thank you for the opportunity. We'll look for something else, or we'll help out in future. Is it because they don't like us, or is it? It's not like that, right? But it's just people have other priorities, commitments that come up. With that being said, it is about there is definitely a divide in the community, right? That is going to happen. But overall, if we were to step back, I personally feel, and that's why I told you I made a little list as well. There is a lot more going on in the community now than there was about 6 years ago, 5 years ago, perhaps, right?
A lot more activities, or a lot more trouble?
Services.
Okay.
So think of it this way. Back when you guys were starting up, even the Syrian refugee thing, right?
Right.
Their amount of initiatives back then to where it's at now, 4 years or 5 years later, there's a lot more happening in the community now.
Absolutely, yes.
Right. And what I feel is a lot of the new ones that are coming up are done with mindset that we're going to do our own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Back then, a lot of it was done with the mindset that let's get under the umbrella of MCC or other projects, and let's tap into that funding as much as possible. I don't see that mindset today in a lot of organizations coming up. They want their autonomy. They want to push their own agenda, their own way. And kudos to them for doing that.
Oh, okay, maybe they want to do that because working with other organization, it was not as easy as it's supposed to be, or it wasn't like productive, and that's why you shy away from working with other organization and you start doing things on your own because you can accomplish more.
Definitely. I'll give you an example again. I'll try to give my examples as much as possible, so I'm putting myself on blast, not anybody else.
Go ahead.
So for our hamper side, right? And every Ramadan and Eid, that's the minimum, I would say. Eid al-Fitr, not Eid al-Adha as much. Eid al-Fitr and Ramadan. Those are the two where we try to do our best to reach out to community initiatives and ask them if we can pool resources.
Right.
We have pool resources is, for example, we have, let's say, 80 families that we help.
Right.
Let's say you are helping 40 families. I think I remember asking you once as well, and we got some addresses from you as well.
Yeah, for sure, yes.
And then we will ask, food bank.
All other organizations, yes.
Exactly. We'll reach out to a whole bunch of them. Some of them will be like, you know what, we're already doing it. We've planned it. Don't worry about it. We can't collaborate this time. Perhaps next time. Sounds good, no problem. Some of them will be like, you know what, we can do it. We don't have the funds. Can you help? And we're like, okay, well, let's see. Let's tell us how many families you have. We'll figure something out after. Funding is the secondary issue. Let's see if we can work together first, right? So you kind of go through the hurdles and figure it out. Some will say yes, some will say no. But on those 2 days, those two bigger hampers, the reason I like to do that is because, I don't know, it's just a better feeling. So Ramadan's coming up. You're going to see, pre-COVID, obviously, you're going to see people in prayers. You're going to go massage. You're going to run into those people. They're going to be fundraising. You're going to be fundraising. And at the end of the day, you're trying to help the same families and the same community as they are.
Right.
So it shouldn't be me versus you or you versus them or any of that sort. It's like, we want to help the community move forward, and this is how we do it.
And do you think you did it the way you wanted it, or you're still trying to do it?
No, I don't think there's a perfect way to do it at all. So the way we do things is just the most convenient from our perspective, right? There are other organizations that have perhaps copied the same formula. So I'll give you an example. We got a message from someone, I remember this a few years back, from Lethbridge. Okay. It was a non-Muslim lady, or I want to say non-Muslim lady who messaged us. And she messaged us and she was like, I'm impressed by the way you guys do this. Can you help us? We want to replicate this in Lethbridge. And I was like, oh, fantastic. This is great. This is amazing. Let us help you. So then we went and kind of drafted the whole process for her and told her, this is what you do. This is who you would call, blah, 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 blah. This is what you do. And then we got a message back a month later or something. We were able to replicate this and do a food hamper drive for X amount of families. And I was like, hey, that's fantastic, right? Like you're doing something in a very limited capacity in what you have your resources for. But the impact of it can go a lot bigger than you think. Even think about where it started off, right? It started off, my Sino-Shore, the vision at that time, again, I was not part of the organization, but what I understood the vision to be was to take single mothers to cook home-cooked meals to provide to students who are living without their families.
Right.
It turned into being able to provide food hampers. The biggest one I can recall we did was 230 food hampers around the city.
Oh, wow.
Right? So you don't know where it's going to end up, your vision, your plan, or whatever else, or your small effort that it might be, right? So if I were to say a message for today will be get involved, whatever way you can. Politics or not, they're going to continue, right? Politics will continue. They'll always be there. Right. But if you were to kind of step back, look at the cause, right? I remember back in orphan sponsorship program time, people there was a lot of politics in the community back then as well, not within MCC, but MCC and outside, right? Because it was like, we're the bigger organization or that one or this one. But it's funny because at our fundraisers, everybody would come, the orphan sponsorship program fundraisers. And the reason for that one was no one gonna stand and argue that against the cause of orphans.
Right.
right? Nobody's gonna be like, no, you don't need more money for orphans. Like, it's fine. So it was amazing because to be part of that cause, that, this is something that can unite the community. There's no arguments here. There's no, divide when it comes to orphans. So if you come up with a cause or you're involved with a cause, that doesn't have to do anything with that. That's a unified thing, right?
So true. But Arshad, Zain, sorry, Zain, I want to ask you this, just to get into a little bit deeper into this kind of community engagement and stuff. Like, we're Muslims here in Calgary, and we say, like, we have to take care of our own people because we understand their needs, we understand their situations, and we know the mentality. It's not easy for some people to ask for help. So you have to really, and this is another challenge in your work, is really like how to find those really needy people and the one who really needs stuff, and make sure your donations and your hamper is going to go to the one who need it the most. So do you think, first of all, is your activities was around Muslim families, or just it was, let's say, a mixed bag of all communities? And the other side of my question is, don't you think we have an interest as a community here, and as a Muslim community in Calgary, to make sure we're going to be working to the larger communities, not only to our own skins and our own ethnic background? And because I see it's so easy just to be, as I said, because we feel comfortable, we know the people, they know us. So it's very easy to give you 200 names that from the people we know. We're going to end up just doing Muhammad and Abdu and Hassan and Arshad and this and that, and then we're just like isolated. We're just like we're not really. Yes, we are helping our own community, but not helping that community. And I think that's going to hurt in the long run.
I agree. I definitely agree with you. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight from the work that's done in the community is a name I would think a lot of people that are working in this field or work with single mothers, they would know this name, right? Sister Wendy. And she's just known as Sister Wendy, right? Like, people are like, well, who's Sister Wendy or whatever? No, you will know who she is. And she is the brains behind Enjoying Good when it comes to
Sister Wendy.
Wendy, straight up.
So, Salam, Wendy, wherever you are.
Right?
I'm an amazing lady. Mashallah.
Exactly, right? Like, again, when you talk about unifying thing where nobody could disagree, there you go. Yes. There's one. So for us, she's the person who gets everything together. Like, these are the people that need help. So if somebody contacts me today, what people, lots of them do when they're like, hey, we need a food hamper, if something we can do urgently, we will do, right? Otherwise, I'm like, please, go to her and talk to her. And she will be the one who's going to kind of put her on the list. That's my mother, by the way.
Hey, mom. Hi, his mom. Of course, mashallah. Fa'ala, mashallah. You did a good job, Ghazala. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my son on her picture. Anyway, so back to Sister Wendy and stuff, right? Like, so do you think we should reach out, and do we help only Muslim families? Back to that question. I don't remember even once when we have turned somebody down based on their faith. That's not so even when I get the list of families, if there is any names left in there, I take them out.
Right.
What we get is, and what we share out with our drivers, is addresses and phone numbers. That's it. Right. And in a way, you're kind of taking emotions out of it, but at the same time, it could be due to various reasons, right? It could be somebody, if I'm the driver, it could be somebody that I know. In today's reality right now, where we sit today, the reality on the ground is, okay, somebody could be well off as in they had a good job, right? Let's say they have a big home, they have a good job, or they had a good job, but they have lost their job. They're in need right now, and they are tapping into savings like crazy just to make ends meet, right? That's a reality on the ground today.
Right.
So you might run into somebody that you know. So the reason we take the names out is so when you're calling, and we tell everybody, call privately. Don't call with the name like that. And overall, at the end of the day, it also takes any kind of preconceived notions you might have, right? So when it comes to contacting address number 1 or address number 2, just take those things out. This is the address. You're going to drop it off, call them. And even with COVID right now, there's no personal interactions whatsoever. Now it's like, okay, I'm going to leave it on your porch. Please take it inside after I'm gone.
Right.
So we don't turn anybody down. With that being said, my understanding is most of the work, I'm not going to say all, I'm going to say most of the work that's being done, that's inputting into the family list, is coming from people that are working in the Muslim community.
Oh, I see. And your donation also from the Muslim background community, or from everywhere?
All Muslim community.
Oh, so the donation comes from Muslim communities.
Yes.
And then you distribute it to whomever you have on the list as a family in need.
I agree. Exactly.
Yeah, and so you don't look into the name as much as look at the address and the phone number, and it goes.
So again, you're taking emotions out of it a little bit as well, and you're making it into more of a mechanical process, which is not what it's supposed to be, right?
Right.
And that's why I always share this with the drivers. I'm like, you guys are lucky. We get stuck with the administrative side of things, planning it all and doing it, getting all the hampers out efficiently. That's our main goal, right? If I finish by 2 or 3 p.m. on the hamper day, I'm like, I'm happy, right? I'm mission accomplished. But when it comes to that, but if you get a chance to go and drive, the satisfaction you have of just dropping it off,
right,
is it can't be matched, right? Any person who's done this once will vouch for that.
I see.
And people, a lot of them have been involved for years and years and years and years. And all they will do is they're like, every time you put a call out, you'll get a message back, sign me up, I'll drive.
Okay. So Zain, you know Calgary very well. You know the people here. You know your organization and all the other organizations, and you know also other communities as well. Are you satisfied personally with the level of engagement from people at, let's say, around your age or a little bit older or a bit younger? Are you satisfied in terms of the engagement of the community in this type of in this kind of welfare of the vulnerable people within the community? Are we doing, let's say, what really the basic? Are we doing enough, or just about right, or are we just way too short?
I think like when you're working in this sector, like working, right? I volunteer. I don't work here in this sector. Right. I want to clarify. So there's people that work in this sector, and then there's people that volunteer. I'm in the latter. So in my opinion, this is one of those sectors, and where if we all do our job properly, we should work our way out of a job. Right? Okay. So think of it this way. If everybody gave their zakat locally, if all the Muslims in Calgary alone gave their zakat locally and they donated locally and made sure it went to proper places properly,
you have no client to go to.
You will solve a lot of issues locally.
Right.
And that's when it comes down to is that, and let even if you were to tap just into the Muslim community, even, right? Let's take that part out, that, okay, you're tapping just into the Muslim community alone. Just on that, you will be able to make such a big impact by just keeping it local. And I'm talking about just zakat, right? You have your sadaqahs and all the other stuff afterward.
Right. I see. So what I take it from you is, I mean, but wasn't enough. Like, I don't want to say it's not enough.
No, definitely not. Because like I said, there are people, there are families that are stuck in that cycle, right? Some of them are going to be in a way that they're going to be able to come out of it. Right. Some of them you can help them you can help kind of skills or whatever else, upskill, get them some kind of training. They can get out.
No. So I think you always respond to Adil.
Adil Bhai is always asking to get involved. I tell him, like, I'll volunteer just without roles and stuff. I'll come the day off and I'll do it. And to be honest, that's what I enjoy about enjoying good even, right? Like for us, we have got it down to this mechanical formula almost that everybody has a role that they do, right? Okay. We have a guy who does the shopping, who will go and place the order. We pick it up, we package, we deliver.
Okay.
Everybody knows their roles, and we show up for the day off. That's it. But no, definitely their youth groups have been fairly active across the city, and they're actually doing really good work.
I see. And not only the north, not only the youth in the northwest. So because somebody might say the youth in the northwest usually they do most of the work, and they got all that. We don't know why, but that's kind of like rumors out there. And you're a northwest boy.
There's no northwest, northeast right now. I live in northwest. Yes, I live in more north than northwest now. But with the pandemic, there's no northwest and northeast.
Yep.
Most of the stuff is online. So a lot of work they're doing actually with ASAF. That's how I call it. At least it could be something else. Alberta Sports, All Sports Alberta Foundation. So they did a lot of WhatsApp live sessions and whatever else to get the community engaged. So they were doing one right now to kind of stay active during the secondary lockdown / restrictions we're part of. And that's for everybody across the city. But sorry, going back to amount of work that's happening in the community, I think there's always room for more, right? Does everybody need to do food hampers? Probably not. But there's some families that you can help a certain way, and that will help them get out of that rut.
Okay.
Right? They can leave that cycle. But there's some that you absolutely can't. Like if a single mother, she's got dependent children, they're younger children, or some of them might be special needs, very tough for her to leave all of that, go get a job. Everybody's like, oh, why don't you just get a job and you'll have an income then, and you'll just put the kids in childcare. It's not as easy as that for everyone.
So true. So, Zain, let me ask you this question. And let's shy a little bit away from your organization per se, and let's move into the larger community. Do you feel as a volunteers, a non-for-profit, as I said, you're not a worker, you're just volunteer, that you work, and you created this opportunity to volunteer and to donate. Do you feel the established Muslim organizations in the city, were they supportive of your actions, or they were just like, let's say, not supporting enough?
Mixed bag, I would say. And reason for that is it really depends who you talk to. Okay. I'll go back to what I remember right now, and he said this is 2009. Okay. I'll go back to Al Maghrib days, and I'll come back to today. I know because you want to talk about today. Al Maghrib days, we were asked to go put up marketing flyers around the city. And I walked into one of the, I won't take names. I walked into one of the shops where I was told, that person is also with a large Muslim organization, and you should go to their store and put up that as well. Or maybe I improvised and I went to the store. Anyways, I walked in and I was like, in my head, how the conversation was gonna go is, Assalamu alaikum, I'm here to put up a marketing. This course is coming to Calgary and put this up, and is that okay? And there he'll say, yes, I'll put it up. And he'll say, Jazakallah khair. And I'll be like, thank you. And, take care. And all. Okay. The conversation went totally different. Conversation went, what is Al Maghrib Institute? What is this? What kind of Wahhabi stuff is this? Or something else happened. And I got yelled at. And I was just like, what just happened? I was not expecting this to happen. This is not how I envisioned this conversation was going to go. So it was hilarious because I came out kind of like boiling, shocked, and just all mixed emotions at the same time, right? And I was like, this is what this person is doing who's part of the Muslim organization. Like, what is everybody else going to do? Like, what are we up against here? And that was probably like my first time seeing like the divide, I would say almost, right? Like, oh, well, just because one person or one organization agrees to this doesn't mean everybody else is, right? People see it differently. It's like, okay, so I stepped back, looked at it, figured out, talked to other people, and they're like, no, reality on the ground's different. You're just, you're flying in the sky right now. Come down to earth. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't want to cut you off, but because this is really important for me to understand. When you say the reality and the ground is completely different, and I want to get into that are we talking about like a different point of view, or different organization that trying to maintain status quo?
Bit of both, but how it was solved was through education, was through a conversation in education. That's it. That's all it required. It required open minds and a little bit of listening. That's all it was. And from there, it was like, yeah, for sure, you can advertise. No problem. But coming unannounced, perhaps that's wrong on my part, was probably what triggered it. Because they're like, who are you? Like, why are you doing this? No, who gave you permission? Right. And for the longest time, I remember we had to go, every time we had to put up a flyer at like Northwest, at Akram Juma, other places, you had to get it stamped. You had to get it stamped, approved first, and which is good. You know what? To be honest,
stamp from whom? Like from the organization?
I think the board or whoever was in charge at the time, or the marketing person for the organization, they would basically approve everything that would go on the notice board. So what that prevented is not everybody comes up and puts up their bike for sale or house for sale or car for sale signs on the board. It's reserved for community events, not for anything and everything.
Okay.
So in a good way, at the same time, a little bit of a process to it. So for some, there was a big hindrance. They're like, I don't like this. For some, it's like, okay, I understand why they're trying to do it. So, you know, you can get around it. Back to today, we were talking about, sorry, I totally lost track now.
No, what we're talking about is this organization, were they supported enough, or they were just like trying to keep you in line with their so-called strategy, policy, or under the umbrella of this organization or that organization?
Like I said, back when we started, the mindset was come under the umbrella of a charitable organization, because then they can share the funds for your project, because you will be part of the organization.
Okay.
Right? So as under the CRA law, or as a charity, if you have a charitable status, you cannot give funds to a not-for-profit.
Okay.
A charity can give funds to a charity. Okay. Or you can give directly to the cause, distribute to the end user.
Mm-hmm.
But
so I don't know the legality of a charity gift only to charity, but that's something definitely I'm going to look into it.
Yeah.
But okay, go ahead. So
that's the issue, and that was the mindset back then, because I don't think, I didn't know for sure, and I still don't know 100% about these things. But my understanding is that when it comes to it, if you are under the umbrella of a charity, it's a lot much easier for you to access the funds that they are collecting. Right. So if, for example, orphan sponsorship program, UFC club, right? So like I said, clubs and organizations, orphan sponsor program went back to being a UFC club a couple of years back. And they actually converted into or became Islamic Relief University of Calgary.
Okay.
Right. And now they have more resources they can tap into funding the same cause, which is orphans, but they have access to funds that they probably didn't have before.
Okay.
So makes it a lot more easier. And then, you know, there's pros and cons to it. As long as you have a good understanding, it's a positive thing. If you don't have a good understanding, it's a horrible divorce.
So away from this charitable work and hampers and all this stuff, let's talk because we only have almost 15 minutes left. Let's talk about the community members, being who you are, being active and working with so many people from different backgrounds and different ages and all this stuff. Since you've been in Calgary for 20 years and you kind of grew up here, we all know what kind of challenges we are facing in this community. Not like all the time, but we do have challenges just like any other community. And from your point of view, if you want to just identify few causes of why we had, I should say, because now it's much better. If you can highlight a few of the things that from your experience was the reason why this community gone through a little bit of turbulence for the last almost 7 years now. From your point of view, and that means you could be right, could be wrong, but I just want to hear from you.
It just goes back to which perspective you look at it from, right?
Okay.
I think if we were to all step back and look at it from a bird's eye view and not look at it from a party or a second party or third party or whatever, just step back and observe, you will realize this is a cyclical thing that happens. One,
Okay.
right? With that being said, is it a lot worse right now? Probably, right? Or at least it was November, early December-ish. A lot of emails and everything else went around, a lot of Facebook posts and whatever else, WhatsApp messages. So for sure, that's happening and that's reality, right? But to me, yeah, at the end of the day, like, if there's a disagreement, right? If I disagree with you on something, that doesn't mean everything you say is wrong. And if I
wish we act upon these kind of words, because we don't. Like if we disagree, that's it. I'm going to destroy you.
Yeah, it's basically like, if you're on the other side of the street, everything you can say, I'm going to discount, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
And it just goes back to rules of engagement almost, right? Like if I am going to, on the same side on the agreement, just because I'm your friend or we get along or we work together or whatever else, right? We're acquaintances, let's say.
Right.
That doesn't mean I have to agree on every single thing that you do or everything else that you say. I should be able to disagree with you in a polite, respectful manner while maintaining sanity, right? And would that offend you? Perhaps it might, but you should be able to look at the bigger picture, like, okay, this person disagreeing with me on one thing or two things, but we have a history of agreements on other items or whatever. Even if you don't have that, it should be taken at face value of what are you being disagreeing on, not personal attacks, not, like all that stuff. I don't know.
Okay, Zain, I do have to admit, like I'm noticing quite a few. I mean, not quite. Pretty much everybody I'm talking to, or I talk to, they just like they really, I would say, they don't want to really go beyond the surface. Personally, I think this community it has a lot of potential. It has a lot of resources. It has a lot of talents, but it's not being used properly. It's not being utilized properly, and it's not been engaged enough and properly. I think there is some kind of like people might use the word hijacked, which is, I think that's a strong of a word, but there's a few players that really influence this community in a way that cause a lot of harm, in my opinion, and damage as well. So as a community member, as one of this Muslim community of Calgary, yourself, like, is it our job just to sit and watch what's going on here, or is it right just to be in the front line, taking position with this side, that side, or at least address your opinion? Don't you think that the time is so important to find solutions, preventing people from so-called moving forward and building the proper schools, building the good seniors homes, working on better projects, and get the youth involved and all this stuff? As much as we say it's happening, which is, we have to give the credit what is credit due. I see a lot of things happening recently, but as we speak, we do know there is two parties are fighting in court over who is the rightful representative of this organization or that organization, who's going to sign the checks, who's this, who's that. This is not a conversation that you can take place in a mosque or a Muslim center. This is conversations only going through lawyers, and that lawyers will cost like $600-700, maybe $1,000 an hour for two parties of the Muslim community to sit, not only to talk to prove that I'm the legal one here. And how do you feel about that?
Excuse me. So I'll go back to what we did, right? If so, there's two things to it. Should you look for a seat on the board and get involved with all of this? If you have the skin for it, go ahead, right? I don't like discussing politics. I don't like being part of politics. Alberta politics a little bit because it impacts me. I work for the Calgary board, right? I work for the Calgary Board of Education, knowing what's going on in Alberta government impacts me a bit. So I'm a bit more informed there.
Right.
But when it comes down to being involved in community, where it comes to being part of community, I feel like you can go and be part of community today, right? If you wanted to make a difference, you can get up tomorrow, go to the masjid, see what needs to be done, right? If you want to be part of the community, go find out which organization you're passionate about, go get involved tomorrow. That has nothing to do with which board is regular, which board is correct one or the wrong one, the haq or whatever name you want to call it. It doesn't, right? So people who want to make a difference, you can go make a difference without being involved or without having a seat on the board. That's the basic bottom line. You don't need a seat at the table to make a difference.
Right. But also, I mean, this ship, it has it need a management, and if that management is not making the right decisions and not creating a healthy environment to attract people in, nobody's gonna come. And if you come once and you feel unwelcome and feel like you're treated just like you're a servant of a board member, or they practice this this authoritarian like need inside of them, you say, you know what, I'm coming here to volunteer, I'm coming here to do good work, and look at how I've been treated so bad. I've been pushed around, I've been ignored, I've been not being appreciated. So really, yes, I understand you go to the mosque and do the work, but in the end, it's a management it's a management responsibility to create the positive environment to bring those people in and maintain them and keep them in. So when they leave, they're gonna come back and they're gonna bring more people in. And all what's happening is the opposite.
I'll agree with you and I'll disagree with you as well. So I see what you're saying, but I'll share my personal experience on this as well. So and I'll go back to food hampers, right? We normally take one of the centers from MCC and we ask for their permission to hold the food distribution from there, right? So either we'll do it at OBK, we'll do it at Akram Juma, or we'll do it at the Northwest Musalla. We did it at the Syrian Community Center back in the day as well.
Yeah, at the warehouse, yes.
Exactly. We've done it from a lot of different places, right? And it's just, we are basically renting a place for free for that time to come and do it. So there's been instances where community members, right, have come in and they have helped out,
right,
for the cause. There's been times when there's been certain board members that have walked in and that have come in and be like, what is this? What is this? What is this? What are you doing? What are you doing? At that time, as a volunteer, you're going to have a terrible experience if the person who is in charge is not going to do anything.
Right.
Right? So if I am the person who's in charge and I have permission to use that facility for 3 hours or 4 hours, that means it's my responsibility to make sure who comes in, who comes out, volunteers, they're taken care of, and they're respected. So at that time, I don't care what role you have on the board. I don't care what position you hold, but that facility at that time is my responsibility. So you have to see yourself out. And I've had no problem asking them to leave, because I don't care what your position is at that time. Right? It can be whatever title you want. You could be the one that's signing the checks of the person that gave me the permission. But it doesn't matter, because I have a commitment, a written commitment, saying, here's the MOU signed. I am authorized to be here from this time to this time. See you later. Right? And if respectfully disagreement, you can see yourself out. Once we're done, you can come back in. If you have any questions, you can email me. I'll respond to them after. But right now, we're doing hampers.
Okay, Zain.
More than once. That has happened.
Zain, from your do you think our nationality, our ethnic background, and like our nationality, is it playing any role in our work as a Muslim community here, or you think we're matured enough so we passed that way of thinking?
I feel like it's the opposite. So when you say matured, you're talking about people as matured. As a community, so take a look at bigger communities that are more mature communities, right? I'm not talking about age mature, But as the Muslim population has matured in that city,
Right.
they have always all segregated into own their pockets, right? The Bengali community will be there, Pakistani community will be there, the Indian community will be there, the Lebanese community will be, so on and so forth, right? We are starting to see a lot of that in Calgary now. It's a natural progression of a maturing Muslim community. But with that being said, that natural progression should be done in its natural way. It should not be turned into me versus you or you versus us.
And do
right?
you see that's happening? Me versus you, or whether me or you, or
It's turning into that, whether you like it or not. It's turning into that for sure. And I think if anybody's saying otherwise is disagreeing with it, like look at the both parties if you want to, right? Sure, you can have a representative from one side or the other side, but it is what it is. With that being said, like I said first, right? Like this is a little bit of a natural progression that happens over time. That's
Right.
one side of it. But overall, it's not about, like, it's not to say that once you have different centers, now that's yours and this is mine. Right? It's just to say, this is what I feel comfortable with. I
Right.
feel comfortable conversing with people that are from the same background as me, because maybe perhaps I don't have to speak English with them. All the seniors can sit together. They can speak Urdu, or they can speak Arabic, or they can speak
Right.
some other language, perhaps. Right? And it's just a natural progression of that. So I'll go back to the time when I first came to Canada, right? In high school, I remember there was a lot of kids that came. So I came in junior high, but I remember in grade 11, grade 12, meeting a lot of people that were coming straight from Pakistan and India at that time. And they all hung out together, all of them.
just like yeah, okay.
Right? And they all hung out together. And to me, I was like, okay, I had a lot of friends that were, some were Pakistani, some were from India, some were born here, some were Caucasian. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, right? But what I'm trying to get at is I was just a little bit surprised to see all of them hanging out together. But it came down to it, they felt more comfortable speaking in the same language, and that was comfortable to them. And they stuck with that. So
Right.
I'll give you an example. Northwest has a lot more Pakistani and Indian and Bengali community, perhaps, that lives around there.
Right.
Is it that all of them are like that? No, most of them are, I would say. But, that is just the area they all live in, perhaps. Maybe because most of their kids went to university, and that's why we moved to Northwest. I used to live in Northeast.
Yeah, same. I would say a lot of Arabic-speaking population will say, you know what, maybe the Southwest or the Northeast is an area of choice, number one, just because it has that stuff. So really feeling more comfortable around your own like nationality or countrymen per se. There's really nothing wrong with that because it's natural, as we say. Even within Pakistan, I was told there's groups or there's regions, and there's some kind of like different way of thinking within each country. But really, what the problem is, or not the problem, we should say, we want to make sure we're not going to turn into a group of people who are going to be polarized over a certain, let's say, especially if it's like a self-interest, and then try to take the right of the other group, to have the same right and the same, I don't want to say access, but it's same representations, or maybe I don't want to say even equal representations. But this so-called power struggle that we cannot deny it, in my opinion, I think it's hurting everyone. And the question is, what needs to be done to offset that and to take this the trigger, if there is any, out of it?
So, Sam, I'll kind of go back to what you were saying earlier too, right? Like, and what I said, we can, if somebody, so there's, for example, who is the legal guardian of MCC, for example? That's happening right now in court. But if you and I wanted to get involved, we can do it tomorrow. And that's what I would go back to is, sure, maybe on the politics side, who's on the board, who got the seat, who didn't get the seat, all that is being decided. But as a community, that decision will impact, what, 12 people, I think, right? 12 people will get it, perhaps 12 will. A matter of 24 people. But we, Yes, we were roommates.
Yeah, تحية للشيخ جمال. Greetings, Jamal. MashaAllah alayk. Sorry, go ahead, Zain.
So what I'll go back to is that like we can make a difference today, right? And it doesn't has to be with MCC. It doesn't has to be with an organization. It could be something very, very small in the community you live in, right? So figure out 10 houses around you, go meet your neighbors, figure out who needs help. Some of them might.
Okay, Zain, you're talking about what's okay. I want to diagnose the actual situation we are living it already. Okay, I don't want to go to the dreamland.
But what I'm saying is, Sam, I agree with you, right? What I'm saying is we don't have to all look for a seat on a board to make a difference. How do we navigate the community?
Okay, we're not supposed to, but are we doing it? And why?
Yes and no. So I'll talk about, I'll go back to like the same thing I'm saying. We can go and get involved and make an impact.
Right.
And that will not mean like
being on the board. Yes.
You don't have to take sides.
Yes.
And be involved in that way. That's what I'm trying to get at is whoever is the board tomorrow will not make a difference in your life or mine. No,
it does. Obviously, we have the last 7 years. We're here today because of a decision that was made by elected people, in my opinion, that led to all this. So you're not supposed to be on the board or we can't have everybody on the board, but it's our obligations to get involved in the process to make sure we're going to elect the best and the brightest and the most qualified to do the work and have the skills to do the work, not because of he's Syrian or not because he's Pakistani and not because of, we have, you have to support me or whatever. I mean, we know how to that works. So the question is, how can we reach that point? Because in the end, if we don't get involved in the process, somebody's going to get elected, and somebody's going to call the shot. And we've seen the last 7 years when the community don't get involved. In my opinion, it's a very toxic environment. I mean, people can make a rational decision that's going to destroy generations of investment of this community. And this is really this community is big enough now. You cannot just shy away from the responsibility of getting involved in the process, just to put the right people in place and create the environment or create the tools that's going to give people the power to question and hold these representatives responsible for their term, if you want to put it that way.
Sure. So it'll go back to a couple things, and I've discussed a couple of ideas with you, and I can share them if you like. Again,
sure, please.
So one of them is that we always, when there's an election or voting or whatever is happening, everybody promotes their friends.
Right.
It's about I like this person, so I'm gonna say what they're saying is absolutely correct. Right. And that's what it comes down to. And other thing is you have to move away from a party system. There cannot be a group of 6 people that must get elected around the city in order to push my agenda forward. Right? It should be, like you said, qualified people, right? But for that, Sam, we also have to look at how many people are voting. So how big of a community do we have? How many percentage of people are actually voting?
15%.
15?
I don't know, but I'm just thinking, like when I go to the last election, just give you an example.
How many do we have? 500 people vote last election?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I mean,
okay. So at on Eid, there are always like 70,000, 60,000 Muslims in Calgary. What is that?
Well, yeah, I mean 70,000. That doesn't mean 70,000 families. Yeah, but let's say 70,000. Yeah, so 70,000.
Nobody's voting as a family; it's an individual vote.
No, I understand. Okay, 70,000. So 70,000 people in Eid.
Let's cut it down to 50,000. Okay, you're looking at what? 1%? 50,000? 500? Yeah, you're looking at a 1% vote that gets to decide who's elected.
Yes.
So if you want to start doing this, you know what? If nothing else, let's hold elections on Jummah. Do them online. in like partner community and boards. Absolutely.
Right. Right.
But what I'm trying to get at is also that you don't have to be elected to make a difference.
Okay.
They have an impact for sure.
Yeah, you don't have to be elected to make a difference, but you have to get involved and don't think the way we do it. It's not our problems. It's all trouble. It's all this. It's headache. Just stay away from it. Because as I said, so really what we need to do to reach that point where we are involved in the process, but we are not obstacles after the elections, where we're going to elect the right people and then let these elected people do the work.
What work are they going to do?
Looking after the interests of the community, making decisions, moving the community from one place to another, buying the right properties, spending the right amount of money, finding the right contractors to do the work, and hiring the right employees.
But who is to say the person that was in charge prior to me was not doing the good job? We're only going by hearsay.
Oh, I tell you why. Because so far, when we have a new board, I wish we have it like a peaceful transitions, but we don't see it happening. Always we see, I'm elected. The one before me is the worst. You have to fix the problem. Now I'm going to fix it. Now 2 years into the game, I'm the problem. A new board is going to come. It's going to just whatever. So we're not really building. We're not building so-called on our success as much as we're just destroying the first castle. Just like we're destroying the castle and build another one, then destroy it and then build another one.
I don't want to.
You know why all this is happening? Because when you elect the wrong people, you get the wrong result. When you elect somebody and you don't have a formula to supervise and questions this elected members, it's gonna happen like this. When you elect somebody and those people, they think they can change bylaws and do whatever they want to do and try to cone everything into their own interest, then you run into more problems. And that's why this community, it's like a cycle. You build, destroy, build, destroy, build, destroy, and that's it. It's just like this, even though we're like over 100,000 people in the city.
Problem is you're standing there. That's the problem. As a community, at the end of it, we're still standing at the same place we were when the first election happened or the one before. Progression doesn't happen that way. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
Right? So, yes, you need to elect them. Yes, they play a role. Yes, they're going to do amazing things. No board ever gets on and says, we're going to do nothing and I'm going to sit here for 2 days.
Okay.
Right? Nobody's going to say that. But what needs to happen are few things in the community itself that makes it easier, not just for people to vote, right? Let's take voting out of it, because vote, like I said, impacts 24 people. That's it, right? Yes, you can make an argument indirectly.
No, there's only 25 people because somebody sent emails and calls and WhatsApp and people say, don't go. This is a fake. This is wrong. This is not lawful. So it's like a fighting. It's the fighting that prevents people not getting involved.
How many seats are there? That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to say how many seats are there. No board member is going to run programs. Programs are going to be run by the employees of the organization.
And who's going to give orders and who's going to approve these?
The board does not give any orders ever. Remember, the board is there to set a strategy. Board is never there to give any kind of orders. If a board gets involved in the day-to-day operations of an organization, that company is about to fail. The board is supposed to be like, this is what it comes down to it. Operations and strategy are two different things. If a board is involved in day-to-day, that's micromanagement.
And don't you think that's exactly the problem we're facing is the micromanagement and my way or the highway, and I am the only one who like, you know, I mean, and we know people. I don't want to mention name, even I would love to.
That's been the case forever. That's been always the case.
And that's the problem, because this is not a private company. This is not something you inherited from your father to think like you own this asset or this people, or you're not a president of a country or a king of a kingdom. And again, and that's why I think that I think the mechanism. It's getting there. I shouldn't say it's not there. It's getting there, but it's it's loose, so it goes with the wind, and then whomever on the helm, it just can take it in any direction. That's why we're not building on the success that we're having. Yes, we are building. We have to be fair. We are improving, but there's a lot of struggle and a lot of internal, let's say, struggle. I don't want to say fight.
I will say one thing, that progression-wise, for sure, we have made tons of progression over the years. But as an organization, when it comes to, or as a community, when it comes to how we approach elections and the board, we are standing still. Every election, there's a power struggle that happens. Every single election. And that's not for last 4 years or 5 years. I can remember going back to, and I remember this because I was coming back to Calgary on elections. This is when the flood happened. There was police called to Akram Juma in the middle of floods, which is absolutely embarrassing.
Repeat that again. I mean, there was a police. Okay, just go ahead.
There was elections happening. I remember this because I was coming back to Calgary and I was getting texts, you have to come and vote. Police was called to Akram Juma during elections, during flood time. So 2013, June, whatever day it was, you can go back to the flood days and figure it out. But you know what? Let's not discuss problems further. I'll share some of the points that I've shared with you previously.
But no, hold on, Zain.
Okay,
I mean,
go ahead.
Zain,
Go ahead.
if we don't discuss the problems, I don't think we're gonna solve nothing. I mean, we cannot brush. If you don't, I'm not saying go back to the 2013, but if we don't really address the issues and give it and open it up for discussion, we're never ever gonna progress in this community ever.
So what I'm
saying is you cannot build on a foundation that is very shaky, because it's going to blow up at any time.
What I'm saying is only discussing problems will not move you forward. That's all I was saying. I'm not saying ignore them. I'm saying think of a plan forward. How do you move forward? That's what I was going to talk about.
Okay. So don't you think it's time to create that environment where we can, as a community, start discussing our issues in more positive way, healthy way, and more responsible way, instead of just throwing rocks and throwing accusations on each other without really having. And I don't know if this is a proper way of doing it, but don't you think especially with so many people, in my opinion, that are really qualified to contribute to this discussion and to the betterment of this community. So what would be the best way, if you don't want to talk about the problems, what would be the best way to talk about the right things, away from the khatib, the mosque and the sheikh, because I understand this is more like a civil stuff. It's not like a religious matter.
So what kind of go back to what I've said a couple times already, Sam, if somebody wants to do something, go get involved today. Set up what you want to do, set up a small project. It doesn't has to be big. I told you how the vision, it started off for one organization, right? It was not supposed to be an organization. That was not the vision, but it turned into helping hundreds and thousands of people over time. So True. What I'm trying to get at is, if we stood back then and worried about community politics and stopped everything, or tried to work with the community and be shaky where it's at today, still that same distribution program still shaky,
right?
We will get nowhere, right? If that means at a certain point you realize you need to step out and form your own organization, form your own project, fund it yourself, fund it through your family, through your community, then do that. But don't let the politics stop you from doing what you want to do. That's what I'm saying. But for the politics, for the community side of it.
Right.
So back to that, personal attacks, and I am going back to the list that I think we have talked about a couple of times, and I'll share it.
Yeah,
personal
please go ahead.
Attacks, they need to stop, right?
Personal attacks need to be stopped?
They need to be stopped. And if my friend is calling out somebody on a personal matter, blasting their picture, putting up personal attacks on one person or another person, that needs to stop. And you need to call them out on it. You as a friend need to be that friend that's going to call them out and be like, hey, listen, what you're doing is wrong. That needs to stop. You can disagree with them on policy.
Right.
You can disagree with them on anything else. But please stop the personal attacks. Okay? Racial attacks need to stop. Racially motivated attacks, they need to stop. Right?
Okay.
Let's not turn this into a fight of you versus us or us versus them. Like I said, as a community matures, you're going to have automatic progression of that maturity where people kind of segregate into their own circles. And that is natural, right? That's going to continue to happen. It's not going to be 100%, but it'll turn into that eventually. We need to be able to call out people that we agree with and agree with their people and agree with the people that perhaps we don't like, perhaps, or we have voted against. If they're saying something right, agree with them. Send them a message. Tell them that I agree with you. Thank you for saying this. Thank you for calling this out. This was absolutely wrong. It will do wonders. You can actually have a mature conversation with people you might not agree with in a lot of things.
Okay.
At the same time, if somebody that you agree with, if they're saying something wrong, help them understand what they're doing is wrong. Because if we don't do this simple rules of engagement, right? You can take the current board out of the picture on both sides. People that are all involved, this same thing will happen again.
Right.
It will turn into the same divide eventually again. Because nobody is calling out when people are going outside of the manner that you should be operating in. Right? This is simple rules of engagement I'm talking about. Not
it is. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. The narrative of, you hear this a lot, and I think other people that have come on here, they've said this as well. I don't want to get involved with MCC because of the politics. You can be involved with the community without being involved with MCC. You can be involved in the community without dealing with politics or dealing with MCC or any other organization. I've already mentioned this as well. Right? Yeah. Within the city, there's tons of organizations doing amazing work.
Right.
Get involved with any of them that you like. The more passionate you are about the cause, the more you would want to be part of it. That's my simple strategy. Right? If I'm not sold on something and somebody's asking me, hey, can you come volunteer? I'll probably go once, maybe twice, but that's it. But if I'm passionate about a project, I will be vested in that and I will go again and again.
Zain, and really try to be as clear and as direct as much as you can.
Sure.
Like, I've been in this town for 20 some years, and you've been here almost 20 years. Just recently, in the last 7 years, we start to hear this phenomena called, if you disagree with your fellow members of your community, you take them to court, you pursue, you go, you put like a lawsuit against them because they yell or scream at you, or you feel like you're, I don't know, whatever the cause is. But all of a sudden, just recently for the last 5 years, I mean, even make it international, like headlines, like national headlines, and maybe international. People talk about Mr. Calgary, the community being going to court for a lawsuit and this. So for you, questions is, why did we end up in court? What do you think the real motive, the real reason why people end up, like suing each other and threatening each other, to the point where preventing some community members from entering so-called the mosque, because they were told this mosque owned by this organization that managed by this board, the board who sued this guy. So for that matter, this person, he's not allowed to come, let's say, come like a 50 meters close to that. Like, this is like so astonishing for me. Do you know why we reached that point? Like from what you know.
So I won't talk about why that happened because I was not involved with them.
Okay.
Right? I was not part of the decision, so I can't speak on their behalf. Okay,
but that's fine. We just want to know.
What I'll say is, if I am part of an organization, and I know a certain member is making any kind of claims against that organization, I am going to, let's say it's your company, right? You have
it's Micah. Okay, right? All right.
If somebody's making threats to your company, will you not take anything that you have in your company and protect your company against
If it's sole proprietor, yes. But if it's non-for-profit organization that is supposed to be a volunteer in it, I don't treat it like my own company.
But it's not about how the corporation is set up or sole proprietor partnership. It's not about that. What I'm trying to say
we have to keep the conversation within the non-for-profit community organization. This is not a company owned by me or my father.
Okay, so but why are you protecting it? Tell me. If it's sole proprietor, why would you protect it?
Because this is my investment. I'm protecting because this is my investment, and this is where
what will happen. If you don't protect it, what will happen?
Competition will take it over.
Okay, but before that, they'll take it over because you'll have bad PR, correct?
Okay, now of course, especially if I have like a lot of customers, I have a lot of revenues. So then, yeah, I have to protect that.
So, but the initial thing that leads to all of that is bad PR. Would you agree?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so let's stick to the bad PR part and apply it here.
Okay.
What will happen to MCC as an organization or another X organization with bad PR? What will be their repercussion?
I would say we're all going to pay a heavy price. I mean, it's not going to be good for all of us, in my opinion.
In short, people will lose trust and they will probably stop donating.
I know, no, not only people. We can't even stop thinking that we are part of a larger community that looking into this community, and what this happened in this community that's going to affect the larger community. So we're not alone in this world. So it's more complex than our own community, Zain, and we have to keep that in perspective, because it's all what it takes is one bad apple to make all this community just suffer tremendously.
I don't think it's that easy. I would disagree with you on that. So I think it goes back to if I am in charge. You asked me my opinion, right? So in my opinion, if I am in charge and I know somebody is going to give bad PR to a company, whether it's not for profit, charity, or whatever it is, I'm investing my time in there. And if I'm on the board of this, I'm going to make sure whatever I have to do to maintain this organization, I will do that. If that means I have to take somebody to court, I will do that. Oh, so that's one. Give me 1 second. Let me find a charger before this thing dies on me.
Sure. Sorry, guys, about this, but I think this is a really important point to discuss, which is why we end up using courts and lawsuits against each other when it comes to how to manage a specific organization. So are you plugged in?
I am.
Okay.
So it's and like, you're saying it happened in the last 7 years. That's right. Because who you've spoken to that might have told you it happened in the last 7 years. Right. That's the lens you will look at if that's how you want to look at it. The politics and the divide has happened a lot longer than that.
Okay.
I've been in the Northwest since 2008. Okay. But overall, lawsuit is one thing. Right. Disagreements between people is a different thing. Right? How you deal with the disagreements is a different thing.
Okay.
So how one person might deal with a disagreement could be, let's go up with a Shura board, let's sit down, let's discuss. Whereas the other party,
there's no discussion, Zain. There's only
people deal with it. I'm just saying people deal with it differently. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Right? I'm not giving an example of just MCC. There's disagreement on a lot of different boards. Yeah. There's a lot of different boards have different disagreements, and they all deal with them differently. Some people are able to see eye to eye, and some people aren't. When you aren't able to see eye to eye, it's a legal thing. You go to court. People are more informed about lawsuits today than they were probably 10 years ago. People are a lot more informed about how the boards are set up than they were probably about 10 years ago in the community.
Okay.
And that's my perspective on it. I don't have any data to prove that.
Okay, so if we want to say Islamically, which is, we know what I mean by Islamically, is according to our traditions, our faith, our interest, and our trust in each other. If we cannot solve so-called these internal disagreement, then the court, it will be a normal a normal place to end up solving our problems and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars over just like I don't know what exactly the fight over what. Like I don't know if it's like over like I'm trying to really understand this fight over what. If it is it like is it over proving my point or protecting the interests of the people?
It'll go back to what each party believes, right? If you truly believe the other person's there to take over and push their agenda forward, you're going to do whatever you think is right to make sure your agenda stays forward. That's just a natural thing. So this goes back to politics. Like I said, all of those people fighting are the ones that are involved in the seats.
Right.
Right?
Okay. Yes.
I'm saying ignore them. I'm personally saying ignore them. Let them be. Let them figure it out. You go get involved with what you want to be involved with. Let the other people be. Let them figure it out on their own. Like if somebody wanted to, like for example, right? If I want to get a seat at Northwest Musalla,
right?
Let's say I want to run for election there. There will be certain seats that I'll be part of, right? If I want to manage facilities, if I want to do bookings, I don't know what other seats there are. Sorry, if you know any, share. But let's say facilities is one, right? If that means I can go pray and clean up around the place, make sure all the stuff is replenished, bathrooms are taken care of, the cleaner's coming in, you're locking up or whatever else. You can go do that tomorrow. Why do you need a seat at the board? Right? We've discussed this before that if somebody wants a seat on MCC, right? And people who have talked to this, they will agree on this. If somebody wants a seat on MCC, go do 2 years on a community board first.
I wish we could force that. I wish we can force that.
Right? And that I've shared this with
that's one of the things that need. Yes.
People have said this makes sense because if you want a seat at MCC, you're supposed to represent that center in a wider community board.
So true.
Well, if you've never served on that center,
yeah.
How do you know you're going to represent that community? That makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, me and you, we discussed this, and I totally agree with that approach personally. Where at least you have to serve at least 1 year in that association or that part. So at least you get yourself familiar with the troubles and challenges, and also people know who you are.
Exactly. See, if you did a good term, right? If you went and got elected, let's say I went and ran at Northwest Musalla tomorrow. There's an election, I ran there. And I did a good year worth of work. Let's say there's an MCC election, and I'm like, hey guys, I'm gonna forego off my seat here. I'm gonna run for the seat on MCC, perhaps, right? Just hypothetically speaking. If I did good work, I don't have to worry about election and voting me in.
Right.
Right? Because I did good work in the community, and the community should be able to speak for itself.
Right.
If I didn't do anything, nobody knows me, then now I have to run a big campaign to make sure everybody comes out to vote.
I agree, totally.
So let your work do the talking. Go get involved. Don't worry about a seat on the table. Who cares about the seats? There's few amount of seats, tons more work that needs to be done. I
know, but Zain, when the rules of engagement manipulated and changed in the last minute, when you call for elections without warning, and then you change the requirement and the categories and the fees and when you do all kind of stuff, people are gonna get really upset. They're gonna get really mad. I mean, that's what I don't understand in non-for-profit organization or environment, I should say. People are treating it just like a cow to be milked. And I really hope I'm wrong. I really hope I am wrong. So let's take some of these comment here, because I don't want to keep bringing the whatever. Fatima here, which is very important to know. Brothers are in the court. Unfortunately, we have to say this. We do have brothers fighting things in the court, and they are paying from their own personal money, which is good. Finally, it's not supposed to come from charity money, because we do know previously that money was used. Unfortunately, hundreds of thousands of dollars was used, and legal fees and security companies, just to have an election or to force somebody from not enter a mosque or a center, unfortunately. But anyway, hopefully I'm not taking sides today. Do you feel like I'm taking sides, Zain?
It's okay. I'll keep you centered.
No, I really want to be. This is not about taking side. Like, but I want to be truthful to myself. Like, I don't want to say something to you, Arshad, and then after we go and behind the scene, it's like in front of the scene. This is how I want it to be with me or with anybody else. But it's not easy to talk.
There will always be a natural kind of like a perspective that ends up coming out. It goes back to conversations, who were around, and everything else.
Right. Okay. Well, I do have to take those. Sorry, Zain, but I think there's so many questions came in, and I wasn't paying attention here. So I'll try to. Do you still have time, or you have to go?
I have time.
Okay, I have time. I'm sorry, guys, for keeping you late, but it's a COVID time and Saturday night, and we're just having fun talking about something really important. So let's go. I like Mahmoud Arshad. I don't know who he is, and I think we never met, but I like his comment.
That's my dad.
Oh, that right? That's your dad. Mahmoud, you've done a really good job on this, Jeremy.
Mohammed, not Mahmoud.
Oh, Muhammad. Sorry.
No, all good, all good.
Oh, he's in Calgary.
Yes. He's in SAIT, just around the corner.
Okay, so because he's your dad, now we have to read carefully what he's saying, because it might be he might be biased a little bit, but his comment really good. We need to think about the stimulus. Don't listen to heart. Yes, Muhammad. There's something really I like here. And I think I want Zain to respond to that. Sam has brought in a frame of discussions. Go ahead, if you would have been to. Introduce.
It would have been better to include both security of the environment over the years. Sure, yeah, it'll be fantastic. Get everybody in a room and get them to talk, but that doesn't really happen.
But it's not really happening. And we're trying to provoke that things to happen, and hopefully.
But here's the thing, right? And this sort of goes down to what I said before. We need to get people on, let's say, sides, right?
Right.
People who are friends on one side, they need to be able to call people out when they're wrong. If people on both sides keep doing that, eventually it'll bring people centered. I'm not saying it's going to make them all brothers and everybody's going to be happy and all that. Not a rosy picture I'm trying to paint.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Force people to work together. You don't have to agree with me to work with me on something. We don't have to see eye to eye on every single thing to work on one project.
But we have to agree. We have to agree, and the common interest. What we have to agree is, we have to agree. Okay.
Sure.
We have to agree on the protecting the interest of the community and also moving it in the right direction, right? And that could be done by informing people what's going on, invite people in, have general body meetings, have to be clear with all your spending, with all how the decision is made and all this stuff, and give others the opportunity to sit in that seat instead of just like, you lock yourself in or put somebody in there who's just gonna sign a paper. Okay, I'm gonna keep quiet.
Sam, I'll say one thing though. You know what? There is not an abundance of people that are like, sign me up, I want to run tomorrow. There aren't many. That's the reality.
No, but you know what we have recently? We've started to see some people with some kind of influence. They are really asking people to come and vote, and these people get in the votes, and these people have been influenced by the influencers behind the scenes.
Yeah. So here, if I'm on a board, right?
Yes.
If I'm on a board and I want to put this project all the way through, I want to see this through before my term is up.
Okay.
I've served 1 year on the board, and I have project X that I've been working on. It's been going well. We need to push this through. The next board is going to come and it's going to help us push this through. Right? Mm-hmm. But we will need the voting power to help keep pushing this through.
Right.
Who am I going to suggest that's going to come? Who I'm going to recommend who's going to come serve on that board? Naturally, I would say somebody who's going to be in agreement with me.
Okay, and that proved my point where it says it's so crucial to get involved in the election process, because this is not like just a board that's going to be elected. These seats have the power to influence asset in millions and millions and millions of dollars, and this big numbers is playing into some people's head. And I was just recently find out some of these assets been used for personal use. But anyway, I keep that out of the discussion because you're such a nice guy. I don't want to just cause trouble for me and you.
There's something Sister Nada said as well. You don't need a position or role to make a positive impact in your community. But our elected members impact our work directly. Board members can restrict great ideas and initiatives. Absolutely agreed. Right? I agree with that statement. And that's one of the reasons which led to us forming our own separate entity.
Right.
Right? That's what it comes down to. That if there is a anything that's leading you to not being able to operate without the confines of X organization X, that's okay. You don't have to, right? Don't put yourself through a misery. Step out, do something on your own if you have to. It's okay.
Right.
That way, there's no animosity towards the organization, right?
I agree. Well, again, when we talk, we have to put our conversation in a perspective that all what we're trying to do is we really want this community to excel. We want things to be much better, much easier, and more inviting and more healthier, I should say, for other people. I mean, it shouldn't be that complicated.
So I have 6 points that I wrote out before that I feel. I'm not going to say have the perfect answers, but they will push the community towards the right way.
Right.
And if you're okay, I can share them here.
Sure.
Is that okay? So
yes, but let me. If you know Nada Marai?
I do. Yes.
Okay. This is just want to highlight kudu to Nada. This is guys. This is a perfect example in when you give the right person the opportunity to serve the community, you will end up with somebody like Nada Marai, truly a wonderful community members, community leaders, volunteers, amazing powerhouse. Quietly, she achieved so much. And that's to prove the point is the right people. Our job is to elect the right people and let the right people do the right things instead of just try to micromanage them, or elect them so you can pass some of your personal interests, which is really happening left, right, and center, unfortunately.
So here's also going back to my point. If she were to, and I could be wrong here, I think she's on the board for Akram Juma, correct?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so if she were to run for a seat on MCC, no, I'm not putting pressure on her.
No, anytime.
But if she were to run for a seat on MCC, would you not agree community would vote her in unanimously?
Totally, yes, of course.
That's my point. That's what I'm trying to say. It should be done this way, where you come in, do your work in there, do your work, prove yourself. And then community will vote you in, right? There's no ifs or buts on that end at all.
Right.
But even as an outsider, if you are doing good work, right? For example, we agreed on Sister Wendy.
Right.
Right? If Sister Wendy, I highly doubt she'll run, but if she were to, and you told her that she will run, let's say, a community outreach program to help distribute aid, for example, just hypothetically speaking, would you think anybody in the community would have a problem with that?
Absolutely not. No, I mean, yeah.
So that's my point. And she's not part of the board, right?
Yes.
She's not the one seeking any seats.
Yeah, just because she has a track record. She has a track record, so you can judge her by her work. So Nada here that given us an insight to something really important, but saying really elected members impact our work directly. Board members can restrict great ideas, and that's again back to the board. Board has so much. In fact, I mean we're here today talking because we have, in my opinion, a board that caused us to reach this point. I'm not gonna say more.
Have a board?
Well, boards. I mean, boards. Because in the end, yes, we might say this, but in the end, we have to find a language that's gonna build the bridges. It's gonna bring people together, and we have to find a way to coexist, whether as an individual or as group of people. Here you go. Cam, why don't you read this for us?
There are no differences in the majority of the Muslim population in Calgary. These minor issues have been purposely created by few people, bias, narrow-minded people for personal gains. You can count them on your fingertips. Yeah, sure. A lot of people think this. All good.
Yeah, well, Cam, maybe you're right, but I want to say these a few people with narrow-minded people, whatever, they were able to say to a 300-400 people, don't come tomorrow to vote, and they did not come to vote. So if it's a one person can do this to 400 or 500 people, then we're in big trouble. Do you agree with that, Zain?
I don't agree with that. But I'll go back to I'll go back to the 5-6 things that I wrote down when this whole thing was going on, and I tried to think about what can we do, right? What is a way to move forward where if you were to remove the parties out of it, right? Take the party system out. Just as a community, how can we move forward? Where anybody as a community member can point to the board and hold them accountable regardless of which party, group, ethnicity, country you belong to or originated from.
Right.
Okay. So first of all, and I tried to draft stuff that is, I would hope, unanimous agreement. And if it isn't, maybe that's a bigger conversation I need to have to enlighten myself, right? Okay. I've shared this with a few people in my circle. I've shared these with you, and we've had a good discussion on them. So I'll share them here. Seems like there's an audience. Procurement guidelines, right? So something when we're going to go buy something, we're going to go give a tender to somebody, any kind of quote where we're doing an RFP, anything we're going to go buy, get a service or anything else.
Right.
The guidelines to public tenders, there should be certain guidelines to it over a certain threshold. So perhaps any kind of service you're going to go get. So let's say you're going to hire a security team, right? Any kind of security team you're going to go hire over a certain amount of dollars, go do a public bid.
Right.
Taha and I work together, by the way. I feel like I have a cheerleading squad here.
Oh, I'm telling you, buddy, you're famous.
No. I did not tell anybody to be online today, just for the record. I told my wife only because she was going to help with the.
When there's a rose, the bees follow. Wherever there's a rose, and you're a rose. You are really a nice person.
I thought I was a bee.
So you attract all the bees, which is good. Go ahead, please. Sorry.
So like having those guidelines, allowing people to hold the organization accountable. Right? It's donated money. We are not a revenue generating. We don't have a coffee shop or anything else or a bookstore that's making us money, right? As an organization. I'm speaking about MCC here, right? I won't put any quotes and anything else. I'm talking about MCC. When we're going out to buy services, anything else, let's put some rules in where it is more public than it is right now, okay? If you have any kind of relationship, so any board members, if you have a family relative that has a business, if you have a family relative that has an organization that is indirectly involved in doing any kind of business with the organization or the board that you're part of, make sure that it is being disclosed in some manner. Okay, so that means if my uncle is doing some kind of work for Center X, or my aunt is involved in providing some services for this, or my wife is, that needs to be disclosed for the public to be able to see. Sam, did we lose you? I hope not. I have no idea how to shut this down at the end. So
hey, Zain, are you there?
I'll keep going. So MCC board nominee, like I said before, they should serve a term minimum on the community board they're representing. So if I'm going to run for MCC seat for the Northwest, it needs to be that I serve a term on Northwest first. for at least a year or 2 years, whatever it is, right? This is just suggestion, maybe a conversation starter. And you go from there and you go ahead and then you're eligible to run for the seat. It doesn't guarantee you a seat. Your eligibility qualifies for you to be able to run for a seat. Did you lose your connection there, Sam?
Yeah, well, my laptop need to be restarted, so I'm live on my cell phone, which is good. Right. I look much better. I look much younger. I like that.
Okay.
But Zain, I mean, if you don't mind, just I wanna, because there was a really good questions in here, and I'm sorry I missed the point you said while I was out of offline, but definitely I'm gonna go back to them after, because I don't want to take too much time of. But I can say here, Azil, there's an excellent idea, Zain Arashad, and that's what I like about you, Zain. I mean, really, this is what I like about you, is every time I talk to you, you talk about problems, but also you bring solutions. And I really think this is something I'll need to learn from you as well. But I think my job these days is to try to poke and provoke these questions and people so they can start talking, let's say, they feel like more comfortable talking about it, because I truly believe the more we talk about these issues, the better we all going to be all together. So I don't know if I have any questions. Let's see if I can post them from here. Oh,
yeah.
Disclosure.
Perhaps.
Wow.
Right. So
yeah,
make these things more readily available. So with that being said, there's going to be times, and this is reality, right? There's going to be times, for example, I'm going to buy a new masjid, let's say, right? We're going to bid on perhaps a property. Now, I cannot disclose this out in public for the entire community to see, because then this will go into competition, and you don't want to disclose how much you're bidding at if there's other parties bidding on it as well. Just general state. This is reality. In times of those, perhaps set up a separate advisory board or separate advisory committee that is responsible. Just like for elections, you have an election committee.
Right.
You can have a special advisory committee that you disclose all this information to, that is accountable to audit all that information and keep everybody in check, right?
Right.
And perhaps that body is what you elect and look at, and they look at all these contracts or something else. Put educated people in there that have background in knowing contracts. Like if you give me a contract, I'll read first 2 pages and I'll skip to the very end. Right? I'm not well versed in them. Lawyers are, other people are that have studied contracts. I haven't.
Right.
So know what your limits are. Step out when you have to. Get people involved when you have to. So make elections easier. Right? That's a big one. I think everybody will agree on that after this one. It was a gong show last couple of times, I would say even.
Right.
Running for a seat, that should be easier. Running for a seat should be easier. Voting in general should be easier, right? I had a couple people I spoke to, and they mentioned voting should be online. Perhaps it should be online, right? Who cares about all the other stuff? Oh, they're gonna get their family members to vote. They're gonna have fake votes or whatever else. Like, there's ways around it. If other people can do it, other organizations can do it, we can figure it out. That means you have to spend a little bit money, spend a little bit money. But if the result is you will have better engagement than the 1% you're currently sitting at, it's worth it. Right? Again, 1% I'm taking based on the whole figure of the Muslim community, not necessarily of how many people are eligible to vote or the voter list. I'm not getting into that, right? I'm saying if our community is this big and only 1% is voting, that's a problem. We can solve that by going online. I think.
And when people see a lot of problems, a lot of fight-ins, that's why you end up with this much. And from your experience, when you do a good job, and as I said, when you do the work and you do a good work, that people will notice. People are smart. When you do good work, they're gonna come to you, and when you do bad work, they're gonna run away from you. Yep. So if we say there's only less than 1% or 2% or 5% is coming to and get involved in for election, that doesn't mean these people are not really doing their work. That means you failed to bring the people in and to invite them, whether by your actions or by your plan or by the way these people were invited. So really talking to people and bringing people together is not an easy task. That's why you need right people who know how to communicate, who know how to plan, like Nada, mashallah alaiha, and the other people, Amar al-Hajjar, and a wonderful guy. And all, I mean, just mention those people in the Northeast, because and that's my fault, is I'm more engaged there than the Northwest, which is I should. But if we do that, I think we're going to get better results.
So if the new board right now, right, if any of them are watching, and I believe one of them was,
yes,
use this time. Let's put any kind of online voting. Let's start it now. Start the work today, right? Don't wait till the next elections. Let's start work on that now. If that means we can run a pilot for perhaps Brooks, Northwest, Southwest, whenever the community elections are. I'm not sure if they're separate times or not. I don't know these times. Perhaps do that, right? Test it out in a smaller place. Run a test system. Get community to vote on whatever issue it might be, right?
Right.
Maybe it's a test vote. See if you can get higher engagement, right? Taha mentioned a good point in there. Higher community engagement in elections result in higher accountability for the board, inshallah. And that's what the board, I think both boards or both parties electing to be board pushed for that.
Right.
Neither of them said, we want in, so we are not accountable. Both parties said, we want in, so we can show transparency. Each person's version of it is different, right?
Yes.
I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to blow the lid off their wrongdoing. The other one's like, look, all the bad stuff they're doing. It's not about that. What I'm trying to say is, if you get a bigger engagement in the 1%'s not deciding, like you said, the fate of the community, and other people said, like the board is deciding a lot of projects. One other thing I think we need to have, and which we don't have a lot of, is a finance town hall. So all the disagreements and all the attacks that were happening.
So I'm sorry, did you say a community town hall is needed?
Finance in general. So
okay.
We have SGMs and we have AGMs, right? They discuss issues. But and please correct me if I'm wrong, but my observation is the biggest issue that comes up at election time, where it's me versus you or you versus me, wrongdoings, it's financial in nature.
Yes and no. Yes, but okay. But I have to add one more thing.
It comes to mismanagement of funds. It goes to people are attacking, personal attacks on that person ate this much money, personal gains happening or whatever else. But the root of all of that is money. That's what I would personally.
Money and lack of communication. Not only money. Money and lack of communication. What I mean by this is, you invite me to a meeting to discuss a budget, and you ignored me for the whole entire year, and you just asked me to say, you know what, sign here. It's not going to happen. So you need to create ways for community members to communicate and agree and disagree. So that decision, and you have to be transparent. You don't just throw in a piece of paper on me and say, here's the budget, and this is what you need you to sign. Go ahead, vote. People need to know. You need to give people the right to be involved. If they are not, if they are not involved in the process, they're not going to be involved in the so-called these meetings. These meetings are going to turn to a fight, because with Arabic we say the heart is so filled with so much stuff. So, and this is the job of the board or the people who manage this community, the community leaders, to always find ways to bring parties together before they reach that threshold where they're just gonna burst and go and attack each other. Unfortunately, we don't. We don't have any mechanism to bring people together.
Agreed, 100% agreed. There's a really good point Sister Fatima mentioned in there. Families are busy on weekends. I'm proof of that. I did not go out and vote this time. I was busy. Okay, so this elections, I didn't go out and vote.
Yeah, okay, well.
One, because I got that email. There's no elections in Northwest.
No. I mean, you didn't go. This election didn't go to vote for multiple reasons. One of them was you're busy.
I was busy as well. But what her point is, families are busy on weekends. Online would help alleviate that problem, right? In my head, the solution was, you have the biggest turnout at Juma. When people are leaving, make them sign a ballot, put it in the ballot box.
Yes.
Right?
We can be so creative and go ahead.
So many different ways, right? Yeah. But again, by doing it online, right? So we're going back to budget, like you mentioned, on sending a piece of paper, getting people to sign. Perhaps, here's an idea, right? And this comes from conversation. I did not have this idea. It came from talking to you. So conversation is necessary. Where perhaps the new board, whoever that might be, gets a budget ready whenever they have time, puts it up online, let people see it for a week, and then holds an online forum to discuss it.
And not only this, and give people plenty of time and notice plenty of time about when the meetings, when the elections, instead of this hush meeting and quick elections and boom board and sin sign.
So what I'm saying is, if we're talking about online and budget, right? So if they can post a budget, then give people a week. Give a week to chew it all, absorb it, digest it, process it, and then hold an online forum or whatever you want to call it, right? And then take questions. And this is what I meant when I said finance forum. It's not there to just come and present fancy charts and be like, yeah, I did the budget. Thank you very much. Have a good day. There's Tim Hortons cookies and, coffee. Help yourself. That's not the purpose. The purpose is community to be able to hold the board accountable.
Right.
Okay. So
that's right.
This is in 2 weeks even. You might want to put Imad Saleh's point bigger. It seems pretty big.
So if you're going to go ahead and read it, please, because I'm like this. I'm going to switch. I'm going to keep you here. So go ahead, read it for us, please.
Online voting will open up problems. So they're disagreeing. Will open up problems which will become difficult to manage. We can do advanced polling. We can do mail-in ballots, but definitely not online. We have recently had major elections in the U.S. and here in Canada. Never was online voting considered because of interpretation of voter fraud. I see your point, but I'll respectfully disagree. If you want to look at organizations, you can look at. There's tons of organizations that did online voting. We are not doing a public voting for elections of the nation. A lot of bodies, professional bodies got elections done electronically, not now, for last 10 years. This is not new. So I agree with your point. I see it, a lot of drama, everybody knows something about it. Depends on how much you're involved in it. But at the end of the day, this is not new. Online voting has happened for years, safe and sound, for tons of time. Tons of proof on it. Go look it up, right? But the purpose of Finance Town Hall, like I said, is for the community to be able to hold the board accountable, pose their questions forward, and get responses to them. And after the budget gets approved is when you do it online. And Adil mentioned the same thing. APEGA does online voting for positions. And they have not, Adil, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that's been going on for at least 5 to 10 years, correct? I hope he responds. But
I would say online, even it's much easier to track everything, isn't it?
Tracking online is one. Yeah, it'll say how many times Sam Namora voted.
Yes.
Right? It'll say how many times Zain Arashad voted. Law Society of Alberta recently had bencher elections online. There you go. Tons of examples people giving you in the comment section.
Right.
You don't have to look at bodies of Canada elections or US elections. This is not that scale.
Right.
The implications, if we're going to go apples to apples, let's go back to organizations that are perhaps similar in nature and compare it to that, right? So Finance Town Hall, like I said, going back to accountability, holding the board accountable, asking them the questions, and once you've got your answers is when you push forward. If that means there's 2 sessions needed or 3 sessions needed to approve the budget, let it be. That's fine. It doesn't mean, because I've been in SGMs before where you go in, it's supposed to be from 2 to 4 p.m., 2 to 2:30, you finished Lohar, so you started late, right? Which is fine. You have to pray. 2:30 to 4 o'clock, now you're already running against the clock. 2:30 to 2:45, you dealt with tech issues. 2:45, you started, everybody got coffee, you all settled down by 3. 3 to 3:45, they presented, you had questions, and for 5 people had time for questions. you have technically lost half the people by now because they have all gone home. And after that, you're like, do we have enough people? Yeah, seems like there's enough people. Okay, board approved.
Right.
Right? That's not true.
So go ahead.
Basically, there's a couple of people saying, Chris is saying 2 to 3 sessions are normal. Perhaps it's a conversation. It's not a, here's a piece of paper, sign at the dotted line, move on. Right? Perhaps it is a community engagement thing. It is getting those people involved. And perhaps, right, maybe, and I'm just speculating here, there might be some people that will get involved through those online sessions, perhaps, that might want to come help the community even further. You might find some diamonds in the rough through this process, through this engagement process, right?
Yeah. I like this. If you don't mind read it for us.
So, like Zain said, 1% of the population who voted in last elections have elected the current board now. The board's mandate should be to increase voter turnout for next elections online. So the majority proportional representation to maintain in the board. So perhaps, and I agree with this, right? I agree with this 100%. We need to be perhaps being able to, I'm not going to be a stretch target, be like, we need 25% engagement. No. Let's shoot for 4%. We're at 1% right now. Right? There's 2 ways to look at it. It's only 4%, or it's 4 times more than we have today.
Right.
All I'm saying.
Improve. Yeah, you don't have to be. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you have to be realistic. I agree.
You got to start somewhere. Maybe you shoot for 4, you end up at 6.
Yeah, so true. And
go
ahead.
But you might, and if you start with 25 and you end up at 6, then everybody's like, well, the board failed. You did not get 25.
I agree. Okay. So board, whomever going to be, the way that this organization is going to be formed, I mean, go ahead. So create environment to increase a voter base.
Basically, yeah. Like let's use online platform after investing some money in doing it safely, right? Because the last thing you want is after election another hoo-ha about this was not true, another lawsuit, and we're back again, right?
Exactly.
We don't want
true, yes.
Nobody
we don't want that. Yeah, nobody want that.
So
exactly.
Let's invest time in it. Let's invest money in it. And I'm saying invest because I truly believe it's an investment.
Right. Totally. This is an investment. Yes.
Community engagement and overall just being able to have a proper, more informed election. Right? With that being said, perhaps, because, okay, let's be honest, 8 months ago, 9 months ago, we didn't do a lot of these Zoom calls, right?
Right.
Online, Facebook Live, not as much. I think you did them a lot more, but we didn't do as many.
Yes, we didn't. No.
Moving forward, you can have a more informed election by allowing, maybe you can invite them, right? Maintain a neutral platform where you invite candidates, help them give their perspective, ask them questions on policy, not ask them questions on who their friends are.
Not question about what, I'm sorry?
On their policy, on their stand.
Yeah.
How do they want to make a difference?
Okay.
Right? So everybody wants to say, I want to bring accountability. I want to bring finances in check. I want to, how?
Right.
How? Show me a plan, right? So let's start with those perhaps, and doing those online engagement sessions will perhaps give the community a better idea who they're going to be voting. That might swing you to vote from someone who you agree with, but they didn't give the best answers. You're like, well, I like the other guy more. I might give them the vote. Or I like the other girl more. I'm going to give them her the vote, right? And that might lead to that more informed session. And it's our responsibility to sit with our elders in such potential online. So must bring them to session and not expect them to attend. Sure, agreed, yeah. Chris, 100% agreed. Perhaps you stream it for them, right? Invite them to stream it for them. Have a volunteer who's going to take their questions, ask on their behalf. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. I don't have all the answers, right? It's a conversation starter. Let's start with something. Let's get talking. We'll come up with way better solutions than I will thinking in my head alone. This
But that's the beauty of it, Zain. As I said, the more you talk to community members, the more gems you find, and the more ideas you find. And it's just like we are not able to harness all these goodies we have.
But Sam, it goes back to the conversation itself. I would recommend any conversation you have on this, let the people know we're not here to just discuss the problems and the community members. Right. Let's discuss a solution. Bring your idea. And if that means you need to simmer on the issues for 2 days, 3 days, that's fine. Right? Think about it.
Right.
Come up with your ideas. What do you think? Talk to people, discuss it with family, whatever you need to do. And then sit down and bring those things forward. Right? And that will bring a good melting pot of ideas from diverse backgrounds. Like if we have 60,000 people, let's get 0.1% of them talking. 60 people. Right? That's 58 more than they are on video right now.
Yeah.
Right? The ideas that will come forward will be unbelievable.
Right. So true. And also would give people the opportunity to be informed and be, if this is the right word, be educated about this, how these community work even work, because some people take it just like the old way of doing this, just sign here or elect this person and that's it. You know, it's really a responsibility. It's our responsibility to get involved and to pick the right person. Whether you wait for the right person to come, or we might say, you know what, Zain, I think you really have a lot of great idea. Why don't you be the next board member? Because obviously you have, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that's what you planning to do.
My wife is
personally, okay, I know. But don't you think it's our responsibility to find those goodies, these gems, and bring them to the surface, instead of when we find somebody who really has all the skills, all the time, all the qualification, instead of helping him to be elected and be on the board, we try to find every reason to push him away. And this is happening, unfortunately, again, in the hot zone.
In the hot zone?
Yes. You know where's the hot zone?
No.
It's the Northwest.
Okay. What's everybody talking about? There's a point that Adil mentioned. If you have to make changes in bylaws to do online voting, do it. I'm not well versed in the bylaws. Like I said, I don't like reading a lot, so I don't really skip those. I missed a good cricket game. I'm getting some notifications. I have no idea what happened, but that's exactly what I'm doing after this session. But yeah, going back to bylaws, anyway. I'm not well versed in them, but people that are, please look into it and perhaps share with Sam and myself if you can, or put it in the comments that is online voting allowed, or is there something against it?
Okay.
I don't know. But if that is something that is that'll prevent online voting from happening, perhaps after you have researched and invested the money into it, maybe that is something worth looking into.
Absolutely. So Zain, we can agree, both of us.
That's a little better.
Okay.
No, but overall, right, Sam? I think I have one last one that I want to mention in the points that I had. People that got elected, let's say they're part of this one or that one, I don't know. But overall, whoever got elected, the new board, once they are ready, they could perhaps do a session like this. I'm not saying like do a Facebook Live, pre-recorded if you have to, but lay out your objectives, right? Your top 5 or top 6 or top 10. If you have a bigger agenda, put out your top 10 things. And I think, if I remember correctly, there were some Facebook posts, some WhatsApp messages that came out from both sides laying out their objectives. But after this said and done, let's lay them out. And don't just put a goal of what you want to do. Put a timeline against it. Okay? We call them SMART goals, right? So put a timeline against it so we know and to expect when are you hoping to achieve this. And if you can, please do something about voter engagement, right? If you need to put somebody in charge, somebody to look into this, to perhaps research more, set up a committee that can look into this, do their research. People that are engineers perhaps are part of the PEGA, they can chime in there. Law Society, somebody mentioned as well, they can mention their experience in there. And including all those things will help you eventually come to a more informed decision over, is this something the community can do? And if the answer is yes, then let's push forward before the next election comes, not after the fact. We have a third person, or is that Sam?
That was anyway. So I'm back on the anyway.
On the PC. It took that long to read it?
Yeah, it is. So anyway, but I have a glitch in my my computer. So, and I missed really the best part of. Okay, what's going on here?
I think your phone's running. The third person's a shit.
Do you hear me okay now?
I'm good.
I just want to finish this session. I want to finish this session because this is just like it's like I did not expect to have 2 hours. But let's agree on one thing. If you don't mind. At least, Zain, I think the status quo is not acceptable. Can we agree on that?
Yes and no. So as somebody who's not part of the board, I honestly don't care who's on the board, personally. That's my personal.
Okay.
It does not make a difference who's on the board for me tomorrow in order for me to be able to do what I do in the community.
Okay.
Because I don't operate under the umbrella of MCC. Okay.
Status quo, Zain.
That's my stance. But I'll say something else though. As a community member who still who's a stakeholder, indirectly perhaps or directly, of MCC and the Muslim community in general, I don't think the status quo, if we're talking about the current way of operating and engagement, that cannot continue. That can't. And that means some tough conversations on both sides where people that you normally agree with, you have to call them out when they're wrong.
Okay.
And yeah, go ahead.
Status quo, it's too complicated. It has a lot of flaws and it causes all this trouble. Okay, whether because of the previous board, the one before, the one is coming, the new one, it doesn't really matter. I mean, with all this talent we have, with all these resources we have in this community, we must at least respect our intelligence and try to do business in a more so-called more efficient way and more an easy way, and make it so easy for people to get involved and get engaged. So really, it's not about just open the mosque and do the schools and do this. It's really always try to find solutions before it happens, or at least try to predict the trouble before it happens and be ready, finding the right environment and the right practices, so you eliminate the possibility of having trouble, not dealing with the troubles. So the elections, the decision making, and all that stuff, we need to find better way to do business, just the way you mentioned it today. You outlined an really amazing, in my opinion, a new, fresh, as somebody said, fresh ideas. And you are just one person. We're only in 2 hours that we waste. We spent the first hour just talking about something really important, but it's not as important as the last half an hour of this conversation. You brought a great idea. You brought something that we need to take, discuss, digest, and add more to it. And hopefully within weeks and months and stuff, we're gonna reform our organizations and we're gonna reform our own social work. So we're gonna be more effective members of the Muslim community and also as a Calgary community, because in the end, we don't live alone. We don't live in an island. We live in a big city with 1.4 million, and with the country 38 million people in it. So the task is high and the responsibility is high, but I think, and that's what I mean by status quo is not working. You need to make it more inviting, and I don't think now is inviting. And you know what? I have to admit this. It took us a lot of work to convince people to run, because we do believe these people qualified. They have the knowledge, they have a track record, they have the financial independency. So we don't have about somebody who's just going to come and he's hungry for power or hungry for some whatever. Because it took us a lot of work, community work, to bring so-called qualified people to the surface or to the front line. And when you do that, the first thing they face, you know what? Court, lawsuits, accusations, and horrible things, that whether online or offline or in court or whatever. So what they think that people's going to do, they're going to run away. They're going to say, you know what? Excuse me, just leave me alone. I don't want to get involved. So that's what we need to do, is create a positive, inviting environment. So then people will start to say, you know what? Yeah, okay, let's do something.
Definitely needs to be more welcoming, for sure. So even the new board right now, right? So there will be some people that'll be rooting for them. Perhaps there's some people that are hoping for them to fail. Perhaps, right? I'm just speculating here.
What do you want? Yeah, go ahead.
As a community, right? As a community member, as a part of the community, as a stakeholder, it's our job to ensure, right, that they're able to see their agenda through. That's our job. That's our responsibility. So they will have a strategy that they will present. I'm hoping here.
Right.
And then to execute that strategy, that's them. But to be able to carry it out, to implement it, to be able to do the nitty-gritty stuff, they're going to need help.
Right.
And it's not just the MCC. It's every organization. If you're involved in something else, any other organization you're involved in, if their board, a new board comes in, they're going to have a fresh ideas. They're going to have what they want to implement. Let them lay it out first, right? It's not about whatever we get done, or whatever, we're here 2 years, let's have some meetings, let's show it, put it on paper, call it a day, whatever it is. That's not it. Lay out your objectives, what you want to do, put timelines against them, right? If you're really organized, make them SMART goals. Like, and you can hire Kapil for that, the guy in the comments there. He teaches this every week. So, but point being, if we present a vision, and I'm not saying the vision has to be unifying, just present a vision that gets me slightly excited, right? And allow me to be a part of it in some way, shape, or form as a community stakeholder, not as a member. Or I don't want a seat, right? As a community member, I don't want a seat at the table. I just want to be involved, perhaps, in getting things done. And I'm not saying that for myself. A lot of people are that way.
So true.
Okay. So give them the platform, let them flourish, and let them take the reins of the project. But present your vision so people know that they can get involved, right? So if MCC is presenting their vision, what about Northwest? What about Southwest? What about Brooks, right? I feel like I hear about Brooks. Well, I don't live in Brooks, but I hear about Brooks only at election time. Perhaps people in Brooks know more about it because they live there, right? I have no idea what's going on at Southwest Masjid. I'm never there unless I'm in the area. If I'm there, I'm praying and I'm heading out, right? COVID and stuff's a lot different, but pre-COVID even. I know what's going on in Northwest because I live in the area. I know the people and whatever else. You see them a lot more than you do other masajid, perhaps. So knowing that and allow, so for example, right, if there's 5 or 6 projects presented by MCC, perhaps, right? And in that, there are 2 projects that perhaps align with something that I want to learn, develop, or I'm excited about, or I want to work on.
Right.
Make it an easier process for me to become part of some kind of committee that's going to help execute it. There could be one board member or whatever who overlooks it, but be there to support the people in helping execute your idea. Don't be there to dictate it. Don't be there with a stick methodology. Don't be there to restrict people. Allow people to come up with ideas. Allow them to execute it. Execute your vision by them being able to do their work. Friction and anxiety. pushes people away, similar to user interface, user design principles. Absolutely. There's always a picture that you see about the pathway made and then the people walking in snow or grass one way. The user interface and design, of course, absolutely agreed. Make the process simpler so people take the right path.
Zain, I mean, honestly, tonight I really wish we jumped into the other side of the aisle like sooner, because we are like 2 hours and 20 minutes. So let's agree on this. When we're gonna get together next time and live chat like this, because we will. I think we need to revisit these issues and talk more about it. And me, you, and other people to get involved. I don't want to just have repeat it. So we're gonna be doing this one. I mean, for time for like many times to come. So next time, wouldn't have to be so politically correct. We're just going to jump right into the conversation, because I really think time is precious and there's more people that need to be invited into the conversation, and more ideas need to be brought into the discussions, because who knows? I mean, if we can provide that to the people, to the people in charge, I think that's something that's our contribution, is providing a fresh idea, as you said. Yep. So I'm having really again a problem with my computer, so I'm just gonna call it a night. And I want to thank all these people who've been with us from 2 hours and 20 minutes. My goodness, and I'm so sorry for all this technicality. And I'm an electronic engineer. I'm having a problem with my own equipment. Go figure. Go figure. So Zain, it was absolute pleasure. It's always so refreshing talking to you. Really, I really appreciate everything you've done.
I do want to take 2 minutes, and the reason I had that written down, I wanted to highlight just 4 organizations or 4 projects that I know of in the community that are not under the MCC umbrella, perhaps.
Right.
And the reason I want to highlight them is that you can go and get involved. A couple of them are smaller projects, a couple of them are bigger projects.
Right.
Okay. So give me just 2 minutes. That's it. And then we'll call it a night. So one of them, it started off a couple of years ago, is Nisa Homes, right? My wife is involved with them as well. Disclaimer, but the work that they're doing in the community itself, there has been a gap that has been filled. Has nothing to do with MCC, but it's working on its own.
Right.
And it's filling a void in the community. Food hamper side, something that is a lot more sustainable, that runs a lot more regularly than our project and perhaps other projects, is IISC's Helping Hands project.
Right.
Okay. I'm 90% sure I have the name right. Helping Hands project. I haven't had a chance to work with them as much as I would like to. I don't think I've had a chance to work with them besides one time only. But they have been doing amazing work on the food hamper side as well. Sister Wendy, you've already mentioned. That's the third one. She's literally a food bank on wheels. That's what I call it. Deserves all the praise and more, right? And one that, it's very small done. And it's not really a Muslim cause that it started off as, but a lot of Muslim organizations and volunteers are involved in it. It's called YYCH Fiesta. So I don't know if they're doing it with COVID. I haven't been involved with them since probably early spring or last winter. But they go out in downtown every Saturday to feed the homeless. People bring fruit, vegetables, home-cooked meals, water, tea, whatever it might be. They bring it, they distribute it, people go home. Okay. Again, very simple concept. You don't need to think grand. How that project started, how first time I visited it to where I've seen it being where you don't even have time to distribute because there's so many volunteers. Now, as an organization, there's a lot of charities that will go and they'll be like, we'll take this Saturday, you will take the next one. So people will take in charge and they'll run the whole entire show. What that small project or whatever big project has turned into is fantastic. So what I want to say at the end is, and I'll stop at this, you don't have to have a seat at the table. You don't have to be part of a big organization. You don't have to have the biggest, grandest idea to make a difference. Start small, get involved with whatever you're passionate about, okay? Have a vision of what you want to do. It might turn into something more grand. If nothing else, you'll at least achieve your vision. And if you achieve something bigger, fantastic.
Right.
So I'll leave it at that. That's 2.5 hours. That's a
And
lot
you
of time.
talk to your wife, Zain, and make sure in the next election we're gonna see you one of these seats. Okay? You have to walk the talk.
No. So again, like I said, you have to have people that are going to be willing, one,
Yes.
and they're gonna have the thick skin for it. I personally, I don't think I do. I don't like.
Okay.
I don't think
you
I
know
like.
what? Okay, we have to cut it. This is like way too long. Zain, that's a topic for another time. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry, guys. Thanks, Zain. It was really interesting stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything you do. And I think your dad is still with us, right? Mr. Muhammad Arshad Rashid, you've done a great job on this cup. Thank you very much. I mean, this cup from that lion. You have a good night, guys. Salam alaikum.
Okay.